The Chinese Grand Prix. What a weekend. We had brake failures. We had wing damage. We had Ollie Behrman overtaking the entire midfield. And somehow, some way, we got another Ferrari disaster. I'm going to be explaining this entire weekend in just a few short minutes. And first, we are starting with the sprint weekend. Once again, Liam Lawson is on the verge of getting out in Q1 again, and he needs a quick lap time if he wants to move on.
The line goes ahead of his teammate.
Never mind. The usuals and Lance Stroll made Q3. Yuki Tsunoda's having a solid year. Hopefully nothing bad happens to him in the race. Anyway, we had a battle for pole position involving Max, Oscar, Lewis, and Lando. Never mind, the former three. And Lewis Hamilton just barely beat out Verstappen and Piastri, getting his first pole with Ferrari. Alright, because it's the sprint race, we're sprinting through this. Not because it's a short race, but because basically nothing happened. Hamilton keeps the lead at turn 1. Norris loses several places. Verstappen held off Oscar until he couldn't anymore. Hamilton breaks away, gets the win. First win with Ferrari. What's going on here? Alright, time for qualifying, and guess what? Liam Lawson got P20 again. This man is not going to last long at Red Bull. Signing to be Red Bull's second driver has become career suicide for every single one. The V-Carbs were second and third in Q1, not too shabby. Yuki, please do not go to Red Bull, that car is terrible. And Q3 saw Oscar Piastri take his first career pole position. George Russell had a great lap to take second. Lando did the exact same thing he did during sprint qualifying, but this time he got third. And the Ferraris thought it'd be a good idea to change their car setup after a sprint win. Lap 1 had no DNFs, but still had its moments. First, Norris overtook George Russell into turn 1. Max Verstappen, in a very rare move, lost a couple positions. Leclerc broke his front wing onto Hamilton's car, and Bortoleto had a nice spin. Lap 4 saw tragedy. The legend himself, Fernando Alonso, had to retire his car due to brake issues. Very unfortunate for the rookie. Piastri slowly built up a solid lead over his teammate, and after everybody pitted, George Russell, Lando Norris, and Lance Stroll were racing for position. But Alex Jakes was convinced Stroll was a backmarker and was wondering why he wasn't getting out of the way.
They were battling up against the driver who's meant to be leaping out of the way. Stroll doesn't have to leap out of the way. They're racing with position right now.
Lando Norris managed to get past George a few laps later, one of the few overtakes of the race. But if we're talking about overtakes, we need to talk about Ollie Behrman. An absolutely terrible weekend in Australia, and now he's passing everyone. In less than 10 laps, he got past Liam Lawson, Jack Doohan, Carlos Sainz, and Pierre Gasly.
So,
absolute cinema. But while Haas was cooking with gas, V-Carb was cooking something awful. They fumbled the strategy and decided to do a two-stop, and then Yuki Tsunoda's wing blew up in the dirty air. A weekend that started so well for them ended so terribly. Verstappen and Leclerc had a lovely battle for fourth near the end, with Verstappen getting ahead. And now, with the final laps of the race, Lando Norris wanted to attempt to make a charge for the win. But similar to Fernando Alonso, he was having brake issues.
Made some setup changes and it's brought the car to life.
the brake situation has been getting critical.
And while he was going at Liam Lawson's natural pace, George Russell was catching him quickly. He somehow made it around and finished ahead of Russell, but before that happened, Oscar Piastri won his third career race. A very easy win for him, hardly any fighting involved. He led basically every lap except for the few that were led by ones who hadn't come into pit yet. And now you'd think the drama of the Grand Prix would be over, right? Well, if the start of Ferrari's season couldn't get any worse, it just did. Both Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc were disqualified from the race, with Hamilton having a skid block breach, and Leclerc's car being underweight. Pierre Gasly was also disqualified for being underweight, but whatever, it's Alpine, what do you expect? So, with the 3 DQs, we saw some fun standings. The top 4 stayed the same with the McLaren 1-2, with George Russell once again hardly doing anything, and still taking P3, Verstappen with P4, and then the fun starts. Esteban Ocon in a Haas in 5th place. Kimi Antonelli took 6th in what was a solid result for the 18-year-old. Albon had another solid points finish, and with that finish, Williams is now tied with Ferrari for 4th in the Constructors' Championship. Well done, Ferrari. Another surprise was Ollie Behrman in P8. After passing the entire midfield, he picked up some points. Lance Stroll was P9, and he has taken all those insults personally, because he's finished in the top 10 in all 3 races this year. And finally, to round out the top 10, Carlos Sainz scored his first points with Williams. Overall, it wasn't the most exciting race, but it was definitely a fun result for anybody who's not a Ferrari fan. Hoping to see more midfield teams have good results this year. Maybe we'll get some surprise podiums like Brazil in 2024. But anyway, this was the Chinese Grand Prix, and however many minutes this video is so far. And just remember, Esteban Ocon and Lance Stroll have more points than Hamilton and Leclerc.